The story of Esther began, or it happened, in the days of Ahasuerus. The same Ahasuerus who ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne in the citadel of Susa, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his officials and ministers. The army of Persia and Media, the nobles, the governors of all the provinces were present while he displayed the splendor of his majesty and his great wealth for many days, 180 days in all. When those days were completed, he gave a banquet for all the people now who were present in the citadel of Susa. For great and small, everyone, for 7 days in the courts of the garden of his palace. Furthermore, Queen Vashti also gave a banquet for the women in the palace of King Ahasuerus. Many banquets. On the 7th day, when the king was merry with wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who attended him to bring Queen Vashti in her royal crown before the king, in order that he may show the people and the nobles her beauty, for she was fair to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, told by the eunuchs. At this, the king was enraged, and the anger burned within him. Then he consulted with the sages who knew the laws. What shall be done to Vashti, because she has not performed what the king had said? Then one of the sages, Menucan, said, if it pleases the king, let a royal order go out from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and Medes, so that it may never be altered, that Vashti is never again to come before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. This advice, this proposal, pleased the king and the officials, and he did so. That's the backdrop to the story. We've just met Vashti, and we now know why she's gone out. Now we're ready for the next saga. when the anger of King Ahasuerus had abated, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Then the servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be sought out for the king, and let the king appoint commissioners in all the provinces of his kingdom to gather the beautiful virgins in the harem, in the citadel of Susa. Let their cosmetic treatments be given them, and let the girl who pleases the king be made queen instead of Vashti." This pleased the king, and he did so. Now there was a Jew whose name was Mordecai, and he lived in Susa. Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Kish, the Benjaminite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives that were carried away with King Jeconiah, whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away as captives. Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his cousin, for she had neither father nor mother, and she was beautiful and fair. And so when her mother and her father died, Mordecai adopted her. He adopted Hadassah as his own daughter, so that when the king's edict and order went out, and when the women were being gathered in the citadel of Susa under the custody of Hegai, the king's eunuch in charge of the women, Esther was also taken to the king's palace and put in the custody of Hegai. She pleased him and won his favor, so that he quickly gave her cosmetics and her portion of food, and 7 chosen maids from the king's palace. And he advanced them to the best place in the harem. But Esther had not revealed her people or her kindred, for Mordecai had told her not to tell. So while the women were being gathered in the citadel of Susa, Mordecai would sit at the gate to the king's palace. Then Bigthan and Teresh, 2 of the king's eunuchs who had charge of the threshold, became angry and conspired to assassinate the king. The matter came to the attention of Mordecai, and he told it to Queen Esther. And Queen Esther told it to the king in the name of Mordecai. When the affair was investigated and found to be so, both the men were hanged on the gallows, and it was recorded, note this, it was recorded in the book of the Annals in the presence of the king. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the other officials who were with him, so that all the king's servants at the king's gate would bow down and do obeisance to him, for so they had been so ordered by the king. But Mordecai did not pay obeisance or bow down to him. When the servants at the king's gate saw this, they said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" And when they spoke to him day after day and he wouldn't listen, what did they do? They told Haman to see if Mordecai's word would avail. For Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. So when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, he was infuriated. But he considered it beneath him to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So having been told who Mordecai's people were, he plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. So, on the first day of the first month, which is Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus' reign, they cast pur, which is lots, before Haman for the day and the month. And the lot fell on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Let's all say it. On the 12th day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Let's do it one more time. On the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. You'll hear this sentence come through the story many times. So, Haman went up to King Ahasuerus and said to him, "There is a certain people scattered and separated in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from every other people's laws. They do not keep your law. Therefore, it is not appropriate to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let an order be issued for their destruction. And I will pay 10,000 talents into the hands of the people who take care of the king's business, so that they may pay it into the king's treasury. Then the king took off his signet ring and gave it to Haman and said to him, "The money I give to you and the people as well, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then Haman summoned all the king's secretaries, and an edict was written according to all that Haman commanded, and sent to the satraps and to the governors of all the provinces and to the officials of all the people, to each province in its own script, and to each people in their own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with his ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the provinces, 127 of them, to all the provinces of the king's kingdom, giving orders to do what? To destroy, to kill, to annihilate all Jews, old and young, men and women, in all the provinces on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. A copy of the document was issued in every province as a proclamation, calling on all the people to be ready on that day. The couriers went quickly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in the citadel of Susa. Then the king and Haman sat down to drink, while the whole city of Susa was thrown into confusion. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes and wore sackcloth and ashes, and he went throughout the city wailing with a loud and bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, but did not enter, for no one enters the king's gate in sackcloth. And everywhere, every province where the king's command and his edict came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and wailing, and most of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. When the maids and eunuchs of Queen Esther deeply distressed. And she sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he could take off his sackcloth. But Mordecai did not accept them. Then the queen called for one of his eunuchs who had been appointed to attend to her. His name was Hathach. And he sent Hathach to go to Mordecai to find out, to learn what had happened and why. Hathach set out and went to the open square of the city in front of the king's gate and found Mordecai. And Mordecai told him all that had happened, the exact sum that Haman had offered to pay into the king's treasuries for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave Hathach a copy of the written document issued in the citadel of Susa for their destruction. And he told him to take it to Esther, to explain it to her, and to charge her to go to the king and make supplication to him and entreat him on behalf of our people, of her people, the Jews. Hathach went to Esther and told her what Mordecai had said. Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a message for Mordecai. She said, all the king's servants and the people in all the provinces of the king know that if any man or woman goes into the inner circle of the king's, in the inside court of the king's palace, there is but one law. All alike are to be put to death, except if the king holds out the golden scepter to someone, might that person live. She said, even I have not been called to go into the king in 30 days. When they told Mordecai what Esther had said, Mordecai gave them a reply for Esther, saying, do not think that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silence at such a time as this, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another quarter. But you and your father's family will perish. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for just such a time as this. Then Esther replied to Mordecai and said, go, gather all the Jews to be found in the citadel of Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink anything for 3 days, night and day. I and my maids will fast as you do. And then I shall go before the king, although it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Then Mordecai went away and did as Esther had proposed. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes, and she went and stood in the inner court, right opposite the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the palace opposite the entrance to the palace. When he saw Esther standing in the court, she won his favor, and he held out the golden scepter to her, and she approached and touched the top of the scepter. Then King Ahasuerus said, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled." And Esther said, "If I have won your favor, and if it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet that I have prepared for the king." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly so that we can do as Queen Esther desires." So the king and Haman came to the banquet. While they were drinking wine, the king again said to Esther, "Queen Esther, what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled." Then Esther said, "This is my petition and my request. If I have won the king's favor, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to a banquet that I shall prepare. And then I shall do as the king has asked." Haman went out that day happy and in good spirits. But when he saw Mordecai sitting at the king's gate and observing that he didn't rise or tremble before him, he was infuriated, but nevertheless, he restrained himself and went home. Then he called for his friends and for his wife Zeresh, and he recounted all the wealth that he had the number of sons that he had, 10 of them, and all the promotions that the king had honored him, and how the king had advanced him and set him over all the officials who were with him. Then he added, even Queen Esther, let no one come with the king to the banquet that she prepared. Tomorrow also I have been invited to come together with the king. But all this does me no good as long as I see Haman sitting at the king's gate. Then his friends and his wife Zeresh said to him, have a gallows made, 50 cubits high. Then tomorrow, go to the king, tell the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go with the king to the banquet in good spirits. This advice pleased Haman, and he had the gallows made. That night, the king could not sleep. So he ordered that the book of records and annals be brought. And they were read to him. It was found written how Mordecai had told about Bigthan and Teresh, the two eunuchs who guarded the threshold and who had conspired to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Then the king said to his servants, what honor or distinction had been given to him for this? The servant said, nothing had been done for him. Then the king said, who is in the court? Just then, Mordecai, no, Haman, just then, Haman had entered the outer court to come and speak to the king about having Mordecai hung on the gallows that he had made. So the servant said to the king, Haman is in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what shall be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor? Thinking, who would the king wish to honor more than myself? So he said to the king, for the man whom the king wishes to honor, let royal robes be brought that the king has worn, and the horse that the king has ridden, with a royal crown on its head. Let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most loyal and noble officials. Let him robe the man whom the king wishes to honor, and let him conduct him through the open square of the city, proclaiming before him, Thus shall it be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor. Then the king said to him, quickly, take the robes and the horse, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do as you have said, leave nothing out. So, Mordecai took the robes and the horse, and he rode. Did I say Mordecai? Sorry, I just heard myself. So Haman took the robes and the horse, and he robed Mordecai, and he conducted him on the horse, proclaiming before him all around the city square. And you're going to join me now. Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor. Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor. One more time. Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gates. But Haman hurried home, mourning, with his head covered. He called for his friends and his wife, Zeresh, and explained everything that had happened to him. And these advisors said to him, if Mordecai is one of the Jewish people, if Mordecai, before whom your downfall has begun, is one of the Jewish people, you will not prevail against him, but will surely fall before him. The words had not left their mouths, and the eunuchs from the king hurried in and took Haman to go to the banquet that Queen Esther had prepared for him and the king. So the king and Haman went to feast with Queen Esther. On the second day, again, while they were drinking wine, the king said to Queen Esther, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It shall be fulfilled. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be given to you. And Esther said, if it pleases you, O king, and if it is your wish to grant my petition and my request, let my life be given me, that is my petition, and the lives of my people, that is my request. For we have been sold, I and my my people to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. If we had been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would have held my peace. But no enemy can compensate for such an act to the king. And then the king said, "Who is it? Where is he that has presumed to do this?" And Esther said, "A foe and an enemy, this wicked Haman." And Haman began to tremble before the king. The king rose from the feast in wrath and went out into the palace garden. Haman stayed behind to beg his life from Queen Esther. For he knew that the king had determined to destroy him. When the king returned from the palace garden into the banquet hall, Haman had thrown himself on the couch where the queen was sitting. And then the king said, "Will he even assault my wife, the queen, in my own house?" As the words left his mouth, they covered Haman's face. Then Harbona, one of the king's eunuchs, said, "Look, the very gallows that Haman had made for Mordecai, whose word saved the king, stands in his house, 50 cubits high." And the king said, "Hang him on that." So they hanged Mordecai. So they hanged Haman on the very gallows that he had made for Mordecai. And the anger of the king abated. How are we doing for time? We're done. Then, on that day, the king gave Queen Esther the house of Haman. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was to her. Then the king took his signet ring, which he had taken from Mordecai, and gave it took the signet ring which he had taken from Haman and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. Then Esther spoke to the king again. She fell on the ground in front of the king, weeping and pleading for the king to avert the evil designs of Haman and the plot that he had devised against the Jews. The king held out the golden scepter to Esther, and she rose. Then she said to the king, "If I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases you, And if the thing seems right before you, and I have your approval, let an order be written to revoke the letters that Haman, son of Ammedatha, the Agagite, had written for the destruction of the Jews who are in all the provinces of your kingdom. For how can I bear to see the calamity that's coming upon my people? And how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? But the king said to Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, see, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged him on the gallows because he plotted to lay hands on the Jews. You can write as you wish about the Jews, or with regards to the Jews, in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with his ring. For an edict cannot be revoked, written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring. Then the secretaries were summoned again, and an edict was written according to all that Mordecai commanded, and sent to the Jews and to the satraps and to the governors of all the provinces, 127 provinces, and to the Jews in their own script and in their own language, to every province in its own language, and to every people in their own language. And it was sealed with the king's, it was written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring. And the Jews got an opportunity to revenge on all those who were planning to revenge on them on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. And him and Mordecai came from the presence of the king, wearing robes of, wearing royal robes and of blue and white. Mordecai came from the king wearing royal robes of blue and white with a great crown, golden crown, and a mantle of fine linen and purple. And there was joy and gladness and happiness in the city of Susa. And that's where we're going to leave the story today. But your homework is, this is not the end of the story. There's more to it, which I would recommend that you go home and read the end of chapters 9 and 10, which talks about the revenge, the bloody revenge that the Jews took on the enemies. I mean, the table was reversed. The Jews were able to do to their enemies what they had planned to do to them. And even though the name of God, you did not hear it once in all of this telling, but you can see the workings of God's hand in all of this. The word of the Lord.